This is X and Z Horror Movie Reviews. I'm X with your Gen X perspective.
I'm Z with your Gen Z perspective.
We're talking werewolves. After that stinker from Lee Winnell, we had to get all of that out of our heads by watching some good werewolf movies. And we focused on the year 1981, that golden era of werewolfery. And we were not disappointed. So, as everybody knows, there are three big werewolf movies all in the same year. They had a massive and lasting effect on the subgenre. They are each important in their own way, which is why I'm going to start with the fourth. The only one that came out in October, we're going to give it a short moment. It was Full Moon High. This was later, the formula was perfected in Teen Wolf. That kind of tells you what kind of movie it is, and it was not a great movie. It's campy. A lot of people have called it a cult classic since then, but people will call anything a cult classic, so you'll have to just make up your own mind. We chose to focus on the other three.
The real movies.
We skipped it. So, moving on to the important movies, we're going to do this in a ranking of worst to first. Not that there's a worst per se, but
The worst out of the three.
yeah, and the least werewolfy. Okay? We're going to start off with Wolfen, and Gen Z is going to kick it off.
Wolfen has a really cool concept. It's werewolves in a very urban area, New York City to be exact. However, the movie does not feature werewolves. By the end of the movie, you find out that it's just German shepherds with spray paint on their fur.
They should have called it Shepherdin.
Something. It's disappointing to say the least. The movie drags on for quite a lot of the time. It has a lot of build-up to this huge reveal. I mean, throughout the movie, these werewolves, they're taking people's brains and livers once they kill them. I mean, crazy stuff. You're like, oh wow, these are like some cool creatures, and then it's just a dog. That one, like, you just want to rub its belly. It's not even like, it's not a real werewolf. And so, that is the most disappointing part of the movie. Other than that, the main character is a little annoying. I find that for Gen Z, like, people who have this attitude and personality, like, we don't drift towards it. Like, we're just not into it. And if you watch the movie, you'll see what I mean. For me, I wasn't the biggest fan of Wolfen. If it had a better werewolf, maybe I would have been, but that's mine. What about you, X?
Okay. So, I really liked this movie when I first saw it in, I don't know, 82, 83, and it's a weird movie, I give you that, and it's not, the dialogue is wooden, the plot is a little rushed, even though they managed to make the movie drag while they're trying to, like, throw things at you plot-wise, okay? However, the idea of it was really appealing to me, and there's some cool things about it. So they shot the movie in the Bronx, and it was around all of these buildings that they were tearing down. Also, you have some amazing shots of New York City. They did one scene on top of, I believe it's the Manhattan Bridge, all the way up. And that's where they shot it from. It's impressive. It gives you the appropriate sense of vertigo. Just a cool shot, all right? As far as the concept of the movie goes, I liked that too. There are these hidden monsters that are associated with Native American mythology, and indeed it's the Native American crew that works on top of these bridges. The implication is because they have this enhanced set of senses and abilities, like, it's all kind of flowing, it's all kind of working for me, but it's got that 80s drag. So yeah, the dialogue sucks. It kind of doesn't make sense at times. And so, you know, whatever with a lot of it. And I can see that now. I think that it would make an awesome remake. I do think somebody could do a lot with it. And it also has a couple of things going for it. It introduced wolf vision. And this is where the wolves see things differently than humans. And the way that they did it using infrared cameras was later completely hijacked and kind of reformatted by the movie Predator. And Predator used like some of the sound effects and the way it's introduced.
Very similar.
It's real similar. The Wolf vision still looks cool. It really does. Also, James Horner did the soundtrack, and you hear the exact same musical score in the movie Aliens. So, as far as lasting influences on movies, anything that winds up in both Predator and Aliens can't be bad. All right? So, just to wrap this one up, it was directed by Michael Wadley. It was his only feature. Albert Finney plays the gruff New Yorker that Gen Z evidently is not crazy about.
Not the biggest fan.
Right. Diane Verona also plays a cop. Gregory Hines does his usual Gregory Hines thing. He's always entertaining. And then Edward James Olmos plays one of the Native Americans and does a really cool job being spooky, creepy, and he kind of sells the mythology a little bit. All right, so that's Wolfen. Number 2 on our list is An American Werewolf in London, the all-time classic. Gen Z, what you got?
I found this movie to be a lot more fun. It did not have any deeper meaning to the film other than a guy, an American, in London, turns into a werewolf. And that is all it needs to be. With a lot of movies in recent years, there's a lot of philosophical stuff that people come up with. A lot of metaphors, I'll say.
The theme underneath the theme.
Right,
and
exactly, like the main idea, but then there's also this idea. And I'm like, you know, not every story needs to have 67,000 turns. It's unnecessary, and so it's nice to see something that I'll say is pure fun. That being said, the movie does have some drawbacks, such as the werewolf. It's a cool looking wolf, but it's not your bipedal or bipedal, Google is unclear, werewolf. It's a really big, regular wolf, essentially. It's a really cool, it's not a normal wolf, but it's really cool looking. And they actually used animatronics for this creature. And any Gen Zer would know, we love animatronics. We grew up with Five Nights at Freddy's. We're all about animatronics. So seeing the twitchy movements and all the crazy stuff to do with all that is awesome in a movie. So I really enjoyed this movie. Overall, the monster is okay. I mean, I liked it. I feel like Gen Z will get a lot out of this movie, to be honest with you. It's a nice, wow, okay, I had fun watching that. You don't get a whole lot of, greatness out of it. It's not a, feature film wow, this is amazing. But it is fun. So, that's my take on it. What did you think?
So, this one is a classic. This one kind of started off as a classic. I think it's probably the most well-known werewolf movie outside of the original Wolfman. And everybody just kind of loves this movie. It's like you said, it's not too complicated. We're not dealing with heavy themes. It's got kind of just the right amount of, metaphor and so on. And the actors are all entertaining. It's got a good amount of comedy to it. And everybody has seen it at this point. If you haven't, we're not going to ruin it for you plot-wise, but it is a very charming film right up until it gets nice and gory. So it was, really, I think the best achievement of that year by wide consensus. It was directed by John Landis, and Rick Baker, of course, did the special effects. The transformation is everybody's favorite werewolf transformation, although we're going to talk about that in a minute. And as far as lasting impacts, I think that this one had a lot of influence on future werewolf films, and it had actually a huge influence in the world of music as well, because John Landis and Rick Baker were immediately approached to do a video for a song that you may have heard of. It's called Thriller by Michael Jackson. And that's the one where we get the Where Michael. Oh, yeah. And that werewolf was also awesome. 2 great werewolves from Rick Baker. So I've always liked this movie. Everybody likes this movie. It's fun. It's also noted for its extremely abrupt ending. I guess
we're not gonna go further than that, but it is extremely abrupt. You're like, oh, what?
What happened?
Exactly.
So,
no, you're left very confused. You're like, oh my. Okay, I
so
guess that's
it's
the
done
end.
then. Okay.
Oh, yep.
So anyhow,
Yeah.
that brings up our number 1 werewolf movie of 1981, The Howling. And this one was directed by Joe Dante, and it's got some lesser known actors at the time, although some of them are recognizable. Dee Wallace plays the main character. She's a news reporter. Christopher Stone plays her husband. Dick Miller plays a bookstore owner, and he's always great in everything that he does. And Patrick McNee, of course, plays the therapist. So this one, to me, is the most werewolfy. And it defined werewolves and how they look more so than any of the other films in that year. And really, up to that point, I think it really just nailed it in a way. Like you said, American Werewolf has a giant wolf. It's a monster for sure.
Oh, yes.
But it's not standing on 2 legs. It's not half human, half beast. Howling is that perfect combination. Interestingly, the special effects artist on this film was Rob Bottin, and he took over after Rick Baker bailed on it. He was gonna do The Howling, and then American Werewolf called, and he's like, okay, Rob, you're in charge of The Howling now. He did also a spectacular transformation scene, really great stuff, and ultimately his werewolves were better, and there's a lot of them. All right. We're also dealing with heavier plot material here.
There's a lot of substance in this movie. It's not.
It is darker.
Yeah, it's definitely darker.
Edgier, and it just really, to me, captured the werewolf own vibe. Yeah, better than any of the others by a good amount. And the last thing I'm going to say is, in one of the final scenes, because we're not going to ruin it for you either with the plot, but in one of the final scenes of that movie, there is a shot of 3 werewolves standing in a road as the 2 people that survive speed away. And that, to me, just burnt into my brain. And whenever anyone says werewolf, that's what I see. All right, it was that powerful of a shot. I loved it. I also loved the ending of the movie, which Gen Z is going to talk about a bit.
All right. To kick things off, evidently with the ending of this movie, we end up back in regular society, and the news reporter ends up becoming a werewolf. However, it's not like the regular werewolves that you've seen in this movie. It's Chewbacca's wife. It looks like a baby Chewbacca. Like, it's not werewolf. I think that this was a bit of a lame ending for such a great movie. I'm like, did you really need to do the Chewbacca ending? Like, honestly. So that's one of the problems I have with the movie. Literally, it might be the only problem I have, because the whole rest of the movie is a lot of fun to watch. It's a bit of a mind bender because of the themes, but it's very fun. The acting is good. The werewolf, that's all we care about. Gen Z, like, as a whole, no matter what else, as long as the creature's like totally tubular, as soon as it's cool, as soon as it's on screen, you're like, oh, that's amazing. That's when the movie says, well, it was okay. That gives it an immediate like, okay, that's the good.
The C stamp of approval.
Yeah, that's exactly.
Okay.
That's the okay for Gen Z. Like as soon as you got a good monster. Other than that, everything else is kind of a bonus. So the werewolves in this movie are phenomenal. They're bipedal. They look monstrous. They're real, like really like they're scary. I'm like, okay, that's some serious business right there. Like I don't want to see that. And especially like we had talked about before, I'm gonna move on to the transformation scenes. I personally think that in this movie, for Gen Z, like I think that you'll find that this transformation scene is, well, there's multiple, but the transformation as a whole is just better. It's more well done, simply because of the atmosphere and the setting as a whole. It adds so much to every part of the movie, actually, but especially the transformation scenes. So I enjoyed this movie a lot, except there was one character that I will never be able to get out of my head.
Okay.
We're not going to go down that road?
Easy now.
All right.
Easy. Okay.
Okay. All right, we're not going to traumatize you. You have to traumatize yourself. You'll know who I'm talking about. Go watch the movie. It's good. So, that's what I've got.
Okay. Very good. All right. Now that we have cleansed our werewolf minds with these 3 excellent films, I feel like we can move on to the next review. Until then, I'm Gen X. I'm not Gen X because I'm just one person. I'm X.
You're representing Gen X.
That's true.
You are X. True. And I'm Z.
We're excited about werewolves. We'll see you next time. Thank you for watching. This brings us to a very close second transformation scene in werewolf film history. It is... What are we even doing? What? Why? Okay, can we?
Oh my god. Oh, I'm crying. Wow.
Okay.
Oh, that was, I scratched my eye, and then I tried to save it. I'm like, it's like I got a labeling. All right.